Find this and other great figures at BigBadToyStore.com.
What's going on, guys? Baltmatrix here, and today we are taking a look at Transformers Generations Armada Megatron. This figure was purchased at a local Toys R Us, and I want to thank a good friend of mine on Twitter for picking it up for me. We then met up, and he just handed it off to me, thankfully. So, let's go ahead and take a look at a 360 of the figure real quick. I have to admit, I am really impressed with the overall look of the robot mode. There is something you could do here with the treads that I'll show you here in a little bit, but this is the way I like to have the figure displayed. The cannon, unfortunately, here on his arm does not detach without breaking it, so you can't really put it off to his hip like you could with the original Armada Megatron. Overall, though, the look of the figure is quite nice. I like the green and purple and silver with little bits of orange here and there. It works well for the character. Oh, as I said, overall, I like this figure a lot. I think it looks really very cool. Now we'll go ahead and get into a little bit more close-up of the guy. There is a lot of superb detailing that Hasbro has built into this figure. The legs, the arms, the fists, everything has very nice panel lining and is very well painted. The overall look, as you can see, is quite nice and very reminiscent of the original Armada Megatron, who, even though he was very divisive, I actually liked that figure a lot. Armada Megs has a really cool head sculpt, and I, for one, have always liked the tongs coming off of his head. It just adds something cool to the figure. The scowl that he has is really nice as well. It's just a fun, neat head sculpt. And oh yes, there is light piping. Extremely evil light piping. The figure really does come with two accessories, the first of which is attached, and that is his cannon, which does fire and has a big orange missile. The firing of the missile isn't all that great, and it's better in vehicle mode than it is in robot mode, so big, nice big missile. His second accessory is this purple gun, and the gun itself is pretty cool and splits apart into two separate guns. This kind of mini, I guess, machine gun, and then what I like to call this little kind of handheld shotgun. They do combine again and can be wielded both in robot mode separately or together, as you see here, and in tank mode. Straightening out all the limbs, I think the figure actually looks pretty bad. Just standing straight up, it's not a very dynamic looking figure. It just feels, I don't know, there's just something off about it. Height-wise, I have Optimus Prime, or MP10 Prime here, leaning a little bit forward so you can get a good idea on his height, and Generations Brainstorm, so you can get a good idea of his overall height. Obviously, this is a leader class figure as opposed to a Voyager class, so he is going to be significantly larger. For the way the figure is designed, he has a lot of very good built-in posability, and this is where we're going to talk about the shoulders that are pretty weird, but there's a reason for why they are designed the way they are. Starting with the head, it is on a swivel and hinge joint here, so he can look up with no problems. The shoulders are on these little ratchets for forward and back movement, but then they're on these hinged ratchets up inside the shoulder for in and out movement. So you could get some posability, or you have actually pretty good posability, but it just looks odd, especially if you turn the arm around. It doesn't look right. So I try to just keep them splayed out or out like that, and try to avoid putting them back too much. Double hit, or I should say, a ratchet's in the elbow with a swivel just above it, and the fists do move, though they are very, very tight. The torso does move, however, its tightness is, well, it's so tight I'm worried that it's going to break. There are ratchet joints and forward and back here in the legs, so you can get them going out, but having them going forward, you're stuck with hitting this hard skirt that looks like it's supposed to move forward, but it doesn't as part of the transformation. Bends at the knee nearly 90 degrees. Well, I'd actually say more 45 degrees. And then there is forward and back articulation in the foot, no side to side. And that's due to the transformation. So as you saw, I normally just leave the figure with his legs spread like this, and then just pose his arms, because I think that works better for the figure. There is a little bit of posability here in the back treads. Now you can have the treads displayed in a couple of different ways. I prefer having them up towards the back of the head like this. That's the way I like to do it with this figure. The other way is to actually fold them down along the back and then snap them together, and so they tuck much better behind the back than they do in the way I had it. But this is how I'm going to display the G1 Megatron figure as opposed to the Armada Megatron. For the Armada Megatron though, I just don't think this works because I want to see the treads up high. The transformation for Armada Megatron and subsequently Generation 1 Megatron is more akin to the original G2 Megatron than it is to any other tank robot that I can think of off the top of my head. It's also somewhat similar to the Legends Megatron that we had last year. So let's go ahead and get into it. Megatron's tank mode is probably one of my favorite tanks in years. This is a absolutely fantastic looking tank mode and definitely resembles an M1 Abram. There's something going on in the back of the figure that I'll talk about here in a minute, but I just want to gush happy joy over this tank mode. I love it. It has all of the amenities that a modern tank would have, including reactive armor here on the top and on the sides. The turret does spin, which I'll show you in a second. It has rubber treads. These 4 sets of treads are 100% rubber, and they do work. The missile does fire. It's just a fantastic tank mode. It has 3 minicon ports, the good old minicon ports, down from the 10 that the original Armada Megatron had. I would compare this figure with Armada Megatron, the original one, but I can't find it. It's probably in storage somewhere. Moving over to my computer desk just for a minute so I can actually show you the treads moving. It didn't work so well on the fabric that I used for my backdrop. You can see that the treads are actually moving on their own. And like I said, these are whole rubber treads. There's no plastic on the treads themselves. They are nice, they are rubbery, and they work fantastically. And as I stated earlier, the turret does move with no real problems. Unfortunately, there's no real up and down movement, so you do run into a problem where it can get clipped on these back parts if you're not careful, or if you've got them transformed incorrectly. The last bit that I wanted to talk about is this part right here that actually forms his crotch guard, or his crotch, the front of his crotch. The directions show that you're supposed to be able to hook the ends of it into these bits on the back of the figure. Well, I didn't like the way that looked, and it didn't really work at all on my figure, so I decided to just have it flip down and have this one minicon peg right back here. And this actually seems to work better, in my opinion. I think it actually just looks better. At the end of the day, I think Megatron is an absolutely fantastic figure. I really like this guy a lot, and to be honest, I was really worried. I was not sure what to make of this guy at all when I first saw the pictures. And if I'm 100% honest, I did not like the way that Hasbro made him look in those original shots. I just didn't. But having the figure in hand, I'm really smitten with it. I'm really happy that I was able to get a hold of him. He's just a lot of fun, and he's interesting, and it's something that the Generations line continues to do just wonderfully, is play up to those Well, to surprise me, in all honesty, it does play up to the nostalgia a little bit, but it also surprises me in really fun ways, and this is definitely a surprise. Now, I would love to see more Armada figures getting the Generations treatment. I thought Armada was a good line, or could have been a great line, save for a couple of small little issues. Armada Megatron is by far one of my favorite figures that I've gotten a hold of in 2015. Now, I am recording this on the last day of February in 2015, so we're only 2 months in, but I really, really like this guy. Now, if you don't like Armada Megatron, I can completely understand that. This is a very polarizing design for a Megatron. But I like this mold, and I really am looking forward to getting a hold of the G1 Megatron. So hopefully that guy will be out soon, and I could do a comparison between that and this figure. But if you don't like this Armada Megatron, I'm pretty sure you're going to like the G1 Megatron. Guys, I've been Baltmatrix, taking a look at Transformers Generations Leader Class Armada Megatron. I think this belongs in your collection. And like I said, if you don't like this, the aesthetics of this guy, you're going to like the G1 version. As always, I'm going to ask you to like, comment, and subscribe, and I will catch you next time.